Welcome back, folks. Not much to say by way of introduction on this one, other than the one-hit wonder videos are lots of fun, so I decided to make another one. Let's check it out. 73 men sailed up from the San Francisco Bay, rolled off of their ship, and here's what they had to say. We're calling everyone to ride along to another shore. We can laugh our lives away and be free once more. I suspect there are many people out there who love this song but couldn't tell you the name of the band that performed it. Well, the group's name is Blues Image, and Ride Captain Ride is a track from their second album entitled Open. Blues Image was an American group. They hailed from Miami, Florida, and this tune, written by guitarist Mike Pinera and keyboardist Frank Skip Conti, made it all the way up to number 4 in both the US and Canada in 1970, but it was the only Blues Image song to crack the top 40. It's fascinating how the inspiration for songs can come from the most random things. Pinera describes trying to write a new song and thinking to himself, okay, I need a first word. He looks down at his Fender Rhodes keyboard, which had 73 keys as opposed to the full 88 keys on a piano. And he liked the sound of the word. Specifically, he liked the rhythm of the word. 73. It is nice. There's a syncopation there. In fact, that whole line has some great syncopation. 73 men sailed up. The last 4 syllables all fall on the upbeats and are held over the downbeats. That's a classic example of syncopation, and it really adds a nice dynamism to the rhythm. The lyrics are pretty interesting. The 73 men roll up onto the shore and offer the people they find there what sounds like paradise, a second Eden. We're calling everyone to ride along to another shore. We can laugh our lives away and be free once more. But surprisingly, the people don't seem interested. In the next verse, we get, but no one heard them calling, no one came at all, because they were too busy watching those old raindrops fall. As a storm was blowing out on the peaceful sea, 73 men sailing off into history. Now that could have a few possible interpretations, but for me, I think it gets down to the fact that most people would rather live out their mundane but predictable lives than strike out into the unknown, even when a paradise is at stake. They'd rather stay home and watch those raindrops. That line, by the way, really reminded me of that great bit from Pink Floyd's Time about how life slips away while you're lying in the sunshine and staying home to watch the rain. Nice chord progression too. Key of D starts out with a nice little D sus2 to D move to the 5 chord A, G, that's the 4 chord, G7, kind of an unexpected bluesy move, and the vocal melody really plays on that. He hits hard on the F, which is the flatted 7 of the G7 chord. Rolled off of that ship. Back to D. The chorus, D, although instead of going to G, A now. C, that's pulled from the parallel minor key of D minor. C is the 7 chord of D minor. There are 2 guitar solos in this song. The first one They kind of bring things down a little bit dynamically. I really dig it. And they throw in another nice chord here. D goes to B flat. Now, that's another example of modal interchange. We're pulling from the parallel minor key of D minor. We used C earlier. That was the 7 chord of D minor. B flat is the 6 chord of D minor. And then that resolves down a half step to A at the end of the solo. And perfect, right? Because A is the 5 chord. And as usual, that resolves to 1. We're ready for our next verse. In the Summertime by the British band Mungo Jerry was the debut single from the group and was a worldwide smash. So it made it to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, but that was it for this band in the States. They would never have another charting single. Meanwhile, the band would go on to have no less than 9 charting singles in the UK. Incidentally, In the Summertime is the top-selling single of all time by a British group, sitting around 30 million. That's just insane. They also had 5 top 20 hits in South Africa, of all places, and 4 songs that made the top 100 in Canada. Mungo Jerry was formed in 1970 in Ashford, Middlesex, England. And believe it or not, the group is still active to this day. Now, to be fair, there have been an endless series of lineup changes over the years, with the only continuing member being singer Ray Dorset. But he just put out an album as late as 2022 called Some Light. Dorset describes writing the song in about 10 minutes on an old secondhand Fender Stratocaster. I think a huge part of its appeal is the joyful quality. It perfectly captures the feel of those long, lazy days of summer. In the summertime, when the weather is hot, you can reach right up and touch the sky. When the weather is fine, you got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find. And it's so simple, just 3 chords, the old 1-4-5 progression, E, A, B 7th. The song was originally only around 2 minutes long, so producer Barry Murray came up with the idea of simply playing it again with a slightly different mix the second time around. Then he joined the 2 bits together with what is supposed to sound like a motorcycle, but was actually a Triumph sports car driving quickly past the studio while the engineer held a microphone. And finally, something I found really interesting, Ray Dorset has claimed that this is the first #1 song to use beatbox percussion. If you're not familiar, that's a kind of percussion now really common in rap music, in which the mouth, lips, tongue, and voice are used to emulate the sound of a drum machine. Pretty interesting, and I think he may be correct on that claim. And for me, this tune also has a very strong skiffle feel. If you're not familiar with that, that's a folksy type of music that sort of took Britain by storm in the 50s and 60s. It involves the use of homemade and improvised instruments like washboards and jugs. And who knows, maybe that accounts for why this band was so much more popular over there than in the States. But be that as it may, I don't think there's any doubt that this song looks both forward and backward at the same time. Pretty cool. Never been away, never seen a day break, leaning on my pillow in the morning. There's a day in bed, music in my head, Crazy music playing in the morning light. Oh, ho, ho, it's magic, you know. First things first, I'm sure this song has probably been ruined for some of you by its use in those ridiculous Ozempic ads.
I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CV risk.
It's always annoying when a cool song gets co-opted by some corporation in this way. But as I've mentioned before on these videos, it's really tough to knock a band, especially a one-hit wonder band, when they're able to cash in on something like this years later. I hope the use of this song by Ozempic has given the remaining members of Pilot a more comfortable retirement. Pilot is a Scottish group formed in 1973 by David Payton and Billy Lyle, two guys who had been substitute members of another very famous Scottish group known as the Bay City Rollers. Full disclosure, like Mungo Jerry, Pilot is another band whose one-hit wonder status really only applies in the United States, where Magic hit number 5, hitting only 11 in the UK. I mean, obviously 11 is still very respectable. But the follow-up single, January, from 1975, hit number 1 in the UK, Ireland, and Australia, but only 87 in the United States. Sometimes this stuff is just really hard to figure out. This song was taken from the group's debut record entitled The Album of the Same Name, Kinda Clever. Payton says it was inspired by a sunrise on Blackford Hill in Edinburgh. Also, apparently his wife around this time had said she had never seen a day break, and he wrote that into the lyrics as well. The lyrics are just kind of sweet and simple. I think it's basically about the fact that we tend to go through life with our blinders on, oblivious to all the magical things that are going on around us. Magic is in the key of G major. The progression goes 1, 3, that's B minor 7th, 2 chord, A minor 7, 5 chord, D major. And then my favorite chord comes up. Here we go. D major, this time C minor, the old 4 minor chord. Now that change is usually preceded by the 4 major, right? You would get C major, C minor, and then to G. But in this case, and in some cases it's more effective, I think, just to go straight to that 4 minor. It's got such an emotional feel to it. Love this one too. F add 9. Now, F is not in the key of G. It's borrowed from the parallel minor key of G minor. But I love the way the add 9 on top is G. So that really ties it into the G chord, which follows it. Incidentally, apparently this song was covered by Selena Gomez in 2009 for a TV series called Wizards of Waverly Place. I have not heard this version, and forgive me, but I suspect I probably wouldn't like it. Maybe that's bad of me, but I hope you'll all forgive me for being kind of a grumpy old guy when it comes to that sort of thing. And I think we'll leave this one on that note. Thanks as always for watching to the end. I think you know by now if you'd like to do a financial contribution, buy me a coffee, Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle. Look in the description. Once again, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully we'll see you soon.